Honourable members and guests, thank you very much for joining us here at our virtual meeting of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. It's now Friday the 27th of November 2020, and according to my watch, it has just gone 9 o'clock. I really would like to say a hearty welcome to one and all of you. I've received one apology for this meeting, and that was from Honourable Brett Heron. And honourable members and guests, I would like you to just introduce yourselves as you speak. I'm not going to have a round of introductions. With your indulgence, we've just experienced in the past that 45 minutes go quite quickly. And the feedback that I've received also this morning is that some committees are struggling to keep to their time. So I would like to say thank you very much. We've just come out of the agriculture vote meeting, and we were able to finish just over the 45-minute limit that we've had. So I'm also not going to go through the rules of engagement for the video conferencing. I believe all the members and the guests that I can see on the participants list are all aware of these rules by now. I would just like the members to introduce themselves so that could be read into the record. And then can I say now, because there may not be time at the very end, thank you very much also to our procedural officer, Ms. Shireen Nikak, for setting up this meeting, for sending out the meeting invites, etc. So thank you very much. I don't know if Minister Bradell has joined us yet. If Minister Bradell is on, he's welcome to make some opening remarks. Otherwise, if I could ask the HOD, Mr. Piet van Zyl, if you would be so kind just to perhaps make some opening remarks. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and good morning, members and colleagues. We have a very short period of time, but I think that we will get through it quite briskly. We have prepared a presentation as per your invitation. And Chairperson, I think although the initial invitation indicated that the agenda or the purpose of the meeting was for the department and Cape Nature to present vote 9 in respect of the Western Cape second adjustment appropriation bill. We were also advised by the Department of the Premier that we needed to tag on to this meeting the aspect of the annual performance plan 2020-21, the in-year amendments consequential to the lockdown and the implications as far as that is concerned. So, Chairperson, we're going to have two parts to the presentation then. The first part dealing with the financial, the second adjustment appropriation. Johannes Fritz is going to take us through that. And then part 2, the in-year amendments to APP 2020-21. Anwar Ghaffur will take us through that. The presentation or the overview will cover vote 9, in other words, both the department and Cape Nature, but certainly we have both my own team and Dr. Omar and members of her team in the meeting to be able to answer any questions. Perhaps just for me to make two sort of headline comments on the second appropriation. You'll recall, Chair and members, that in July we had a similar engagement, which was on the first adjustments appropriation, which was generally called the COVID adjustment bill. In that round, we, vote 9, had to cut back by 8,921 million rand. This round, which is the second adjusted appropriation, vote 9, has been set the target by Provincial Treasury of 21,594 million rand reduction. And in essence, and we'll take you through the detail in a moment, in essence, it relates to a cost of employment adjustment coming out of a determination by the National Minister of Finance in his medium-term budget policy statement that there will be no salary adjustments for the next 3 years. The so-called cost of living adjustment, as it's referred to, or COLA by its acronym. I just want to flag one point here, Chair, which we can come back to right at the end. And whilst we have done that, obviously, as required, across all 14 provincial votes, and you, I'm sure, would have heard the same message from Agriculture earlier, there is one element of risk in the adjustment budget for 2020-21, and that is that there's a 3-year wage agreement that is in place at the moment, and I'm sure you're all aware of it. It's being, the Labour Court matter is being heard next week on the 2nd of December. We have been advised by Provincial Minister of Finance and Provincial Treasury that there are settlement discussions underway between the unions and the state representatives. But Chair, the implicit in what we're presenting to you today is a zero adjustment to cost of living also for 2020-21. In other words, year 3 of the wage agreement. If there is a settlement that comes out of the review matter, some additional funding is going to have to be provided from wherever. I'm just flagging that risk. We have done what we were asked to do, but for the current year, there is an element of risk. The next 3 years, a new agreement would have to be negotiated, and all those provisions could be dealt with under those circumstances. But I have to alert the committee to that element of risk. So, Chair, with that, I'm going to, if it's in order, hand over to firstly Johannes Fritz to take us through the financial part, and then Anwar Ghafoor on the performance APP adjustment part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Zyl. And before we start with the presentation, could I just quickly ask the members to introduce themselves quickly? I'm Andrikus van der Westhuizen, chairperson of the committee. Over to you, members.
Deirdre Bartman.
Pet Moran.
Matlodi Maseko.
Thank you. I believe. Hi, welcome, Honourable Smith. Okay, so that deals with it. Mr. Yes, we hear you. Can I just say I am concerned about the length of the presentation, and I need to unfortunately ask you to go very, very quickly through the presentation in order to allow for questions and deliberations afterwards. So please proceed straight away. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to yourself, members, Minister, HOD, and CEO of Cape Nature, and our other colleagues. The presentation, just briefly, we're going to touch on recapping on the first adjustment appropriation, and we go into the summary of the second adjustment appropriation. Item 3 will be looking at the economic classification, and then item 4, movements between the programs, and then Anwar Ghafoor will cover the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Please proceed, and as I've said, I am concerned about the time. Thank you.
I will be brief, Chair. Thank you. So the first adjustment appropriation, as indicated by the HOD, a net reduction of 8.921 million. So our original budget was 620.847 million. That has been reduced to 611.926 million. Then the second adjustment appropriation, also mentioned already by the HOD, the target has been set by the department to decrease the allocation by 21.594 million, and that is primarily due to that we had not to make provision for any salary increases for the current financial year. So the budget has been reduced to 590.332 million, Thank you. On compensation in totality has been reduced with 18.339 million, of which 18.155 million has been surrendered to the revenue fund, and then 184,000 has been shifted to transfers and subsidies for the utilization of leave credits for payout of those. Goods and services. The net movement in goods and services is a decrease of 1.212 million, and that includes shifts from Cape Nature 2.16 million for the replacement of our air quality monitoring equipment, shift to Cape Nature of 500,000 for the Horsloot priority mapping project, and then 2.872 million been shifted to payments for capital assets for the replacement of computer equipment, and then also for our water monitoring equipment. And then there's a small shift of 1,000 rand for financial assets for debt that has been written off. Transfer payments decrease in totality by 4.916 million, of which 184, as I indicated, was shifted from goods and from compensation of employees. The 500,000 shifted towards Cape Nature. Then the decrease of 3.439 on Cape Nature for the salary increases, and then another decrease of 2.161 million from Cape Nature for the replacement of the air quality monitoring equipment. The capital assets increased by 2.872 million. As indicated already, 2.481 million has been shifted from goods and services, and that will capture the replacement of laptops, the water quality equipment, and a large format printer. And then also there's a commitment from the previous financial year of 391,000 for Envidus software. And then the 1,000, as I mentioned, is for the write-off of salary overpayment. Then just briefly between the programs. So from program 1, 316 was shifted to program 2, and then 1.624 million has been shifted to program 4, and the details been captured on there. Program 2 to program 1, an amount of 17,000 has been shifted for the utilization of leave credits, the payment of those. From program 5 to program 2, 62,000 rand has been shifted. And then from program 5 to program 4, 3.394 million has been shifted, and the details been captured. Program 6, 114,000 has been shifted to program 4. Program 7, 255,000 has been shifted to program 4, of which the bulk of those are for the replacement of the air quality monitoring equipment. I'll give over to Anwar to deal with the rest of the presentation in terms of the performance.
Thank you, Johannes. Good morning, Chairperson and all the members and members of our department and standing committee, Cape Nature, as well as Minister and his staff as well.
Mr. Gafoor, we lost you.
No, Chair, I'm here. I just have to, I had to minimize the presentation to be able to switch on my mic. So I'll be back on now. Chair, just in terms of the vote 9 in-year amendments to our annual performance plan that Minister tabled in February or 4th of March this year. Provincial Treasury Circular 2 and also the DG Circular 55 referred to significant budget reductions that were required for the 2021 financial year. This also impacted on the requirements, required all departments to then conduct a review of programs and also all delivery modalities as well. This resulted in the department amending indicators, targets, and also had to adjust 5 district model budgets allocations to its 2020-21 IPP. Cape Nature amended 2 indicators in their 2020-21 IPP. And in main, the reasons for the amendments were the reduction of the budget, especially relating to operational cost, had a direct impact on the department's ability to meet the planned targets that were in the IPP. Also, certain projects had to be terminated due to the budget reductions, and then also the budget reductions also impacted on the allocation and caused also project scope to be reduced as well. And then especially on Cape Nature, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism sector in the country. With regards to the specific amendments, the first one was in program 3, and it relates to indicator 3.12 and 3.13 and 3.15. 3.12 is the number of administrative enforcement notices issued for non-compliance with environmental management legislation, and that was reduced from 210 to 200, and the reasons are what I've given previously. Then for indicator 3.13, and this is for the number of compliance completed criminal investigations handed to the NPA for prosecution, and this was reduced from 16 to 8. And then for indicator 315, which is the number of Section 24G applications finalized, and this was reduced from 30 to 20 in terms of the annual target. In terms of the DG circular, we could not amend the targets for quarter 1 and 2, so all the amendments to the annual target were made in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Then on page 41, for indicator 3.1.2, the quarterly targets for quarter 4 was reduced from 60 to 50. And then for the same for the 313 that I've spoken to earlier, the quarter 3 and quarter 4 targets were reduced by the 8. And then for indicator 315 relating to 24G, this was reduced by 10. Then with regards to output indicator 4.3.1, and this relates to the number of waste minimization interventions undertaken for priority waste streams. And this was reduced from 2 to 1. And the reasons are the same. And then also for the quarterly target 4, obviously was reduced from 2 to 1. And then on page 42, indicator 6.2.1, the number of environmental awareness activities conducted was reduced from 14 to 8, so that's a reduction of 6, and this was done in quarter 4. Then with regards to the district development model adjustments that I spoke about earlier, and this relates to the budget reductions. So for the integrated waste management budget allocation, this was reduced from 89,000 to 0, so this project was actually terminated. Then for the integrated waste management, also for it was reduced from 1.907 million to 1.710. And then also integrated waste management also had to reduce another project from 51,000 to 10,000. And another one on the waste side was reduced from 155,000 to 0. So that was also terminated. And they had related to hazardous waste interventions. And then on page 78, the environmental capacity building activities conducted for women in green economy. The budget was also, this project was also terminated the budget was reduced from 134,400 to 0. And then in terms of Cape Nature, there were 2 indicators that were amended. The first one relates to the number of work opportunities created through environmental programs. And the number of work opportunities was reduced from 1,000 to 700. And also the indicator relating to the percentages increase in the tourism income generated. And this was the indicator is to be removed. And just to go into the reasons for Cape Nature, for the first indicator, the number of work opportunities created through environmental programs. And this was based on the ability for contractors and service providers to be able to access protected areas and perform the tasks and activities required. And also a predicted second wave of the pandemic could occur towards the latter part of the Q3 and during Q4 of the financial year. And should this occur, there could be a return to more stringent lockdown levels, which could impact on the movement of people, including contractors and service providers. And then with regards to the second, what happened here now? With regards to the second indicator for Cape Nature relating to the percentage increase in tourism income generated, the income for the year to date was significantly lower compared to the same period in 2019. And this is obviously especially during Q1 and 2. The entity will not be able to recover this margin during the remaining of the financial year. And historically, the entity generated significant income between December and March. This period coincides with the predicted second wave of the pandemic. And should this occur, there could be a return to more stringent lockdown levels, preventing or deterring the movement of people. And other factors, including the unpredictability of visitors from abroad, a prediction of a second wave, and when this wave will occur, the lower occupancy levels currently observed, and the inability of the entity to predict the client behavior. Then, Chair, just in conclusion, the net reduction on vote 9 in the second adjustments budget is 21,594 million, and the reduction is mainly due to no salary increases for the current year. And as the HOD has spoken to the risk earlier of to the vote, if the court decision suggests any salary increases. Thank you, Chair. That's the presentation. And I hope we were within our time frame.
Very much, Mr. Kapoor. Yes, indeed. We have about 20 minutes of deliberations and the consideration of the report. We've got about 15 minutes for questions and answers, and hopefully the answers will be longer than the questions. So if we allocate the next 5 minutes to questions. I see Honourable Bartman's hand has been raised. Can I just give an indication of any other members at this point in time? Honourable Bartman, you can proceed. Then Honourable Maseko. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on page 225 of the budget, obviously it's in the presentation as well, it was indicated that 62,000 Rand will be given for the Green Economy Smart Procurement Project. And I just wanted to find out what specifically that will be for. And then on page 227, as well as being indicated in the presentation, it indicated that the Women in Green Economy workshop had to be cancelled due to the COVID restrictions on gatherings. And I just wanted to find out, is there no alternative for having this particular workshop, whether online or smaller particular workshops? And I just would like to thank the officials for everything they are doing in this very difficult times, because it's clear that from this particular vote that a lot of the cuts are affected based on the public wage bill and compensation on employees, and we've already seen this budget being cut previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Maseko, and then Honourable Maran.
Chair, thank you very much for the department with the presentation, and I think it sums up everything that is in the big book. And I think Member Bartman covered me. I was just interested to hear the question of the total cut of the the women in the green economy. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, members, and I appreciate you being so brief. Honorable Maran, please continue.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning to the officials. It's the same members, but different officials. Chair, the HOD at the beginning of the meeting basically sent out a strong message or warning, if I can put it like that, in terms of the cost of employment reduction of just more than 18 million rand. And the reason being is because of a decision taken at the national level. Now, he also warned us that although there was a decision, there's a 3-year agreement with workers in terms of increases. And also warned us that there's a court case and it will be heard on the 12th of next month. Workers have taken government to court. And if the outcome favors workers, that somehow, some way, we must go and find money to cover the cost of the increases that will then be there. So we are surrendering, say, 18 million rand. Is there another way that we can do it, Chair? We are surrendering this money to the provincial, what do you call that fund? And I'm not so sure if the monies will be used for other programs. And if it's the case and workers win that case, we will be in serious troubles, Chair. So I just wanted to check. We've received a warning from the HOD, but the HOD also did not assist and tell us and then actually what we should do. He only said that we then will have to find these monies from one way or the other. Is he suggesting, Chair, that we don't surrender these monies? Even if you look, for instance, at Cape Nature, part of the 18 million rand is, I think, Cape Nature is affected by 3.5 million rand. That's been surrendered because of COEs, cost of employment. So they will also be hugely affected, Chair. What is the HOG suggesting we should do? Is there another way that we can deal with this issue instead of just surrendering this money to the provincial?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Honorable Maran. Honorable Maran, regarding the salary increases, I believe that is a directive from National Treasury that were followed by all provincial departments, but I'll leave it to the HOD to respond as you've put the question to him. Can I just quickly comment and ask a few questions? I have a huge concern about some of the targets that have been lowered that are directly linked to some of our provincial priorities. My impression is that if a 24G application is delayed, that impact on development, and development lead normally to job creation, etc. And to then now say, but because of the budget cut in terms of traveling expenses, that this department is therefore then holding back economic growth in the Western Cape. And I'm just wondering, HOD, is that something that's not understood by the Provincial Treasury? Didn't you explain to Provincial Treasury the link between this department's performance and economic recovery, job creation, and obviously also future job opportunities in the Western Cape? The next one is, if you could just help us with the replacement of the air quality stations. I think it's important because that evidence is sometimes used in court cases, and therefore the information must be reliable, and I presume therefore that the equipment used must conform to the latest standards. But if you could just give us an indication, what percentage of our air quality stations will therefore then now be replaced with this new equipment? And thirdly, this thing of lowering targets in anticipation of a possible future lockdown. Is that also a directive that came from somewhere? Because this is the first time that I've picked it up, that we are lowering targets in anticipation of something which we are all working towards to try and avoid. So over to you, Mr. Van Zyl. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you. Just to give some of my colleagues a heads up, I think that your last question about the lowering of targets in consideration of the pandemic, I'm going to ask Dr. Omar or CFO Mohammed Bayat perhaps to talk to that one specifically. I'm going to ask Gottlieb Arendse to quickly talk about the air quality monitoring stations, and Ayub Mohammed to talk about the target adjustment and the example that you used. I know there's a general principle, but the example that you used being the 24G and the risks implicit. And then I'm also going to ask Karen Shippey to answer Member Baartman's, or try and respond to the two questions posed by Member Baartman. I want to...
Sorry, can I just point out we've got about 8 minutes for these responses. So each of these officials will please have to watch the time. Thank you. You can proceed.
1 to 2 minutes each. We note that. I'm watching the clock as well. I think Member Moran puts his finger exactly on the challenge. Chair, all the provincial departments are having to respond. It's an enforced fiscal target. We're getting less money from the provincial equitable share. And just to give you that number, if you've not heard it already, we're talking about 21,594 adjustment in vote 9. The total adjustment for the provincial budget, in other words, all 14 votes, is 1.3 billion rand. So that is the risk exposure. I think that if we had the luxury of making an assumption, I suppose it's an all or nothing just in terms of the court case, but that call was made by National Treasury, and if there's going to be a shortfall, and perhaps Minister Brevel can also speak to that, because it had a considerable discussion at Cabinet last week, but it is an exposure that we should be aware of. Look, first prize is if the court case is won and there is zero increase, but my sense is that the mere fact that there are talks of a settlement to avoid the court case means that something is going to have to be paid. Now, that something is going to have to come from somewhere. But we're doing what we've been asked to surrender 21.594. If there's a shortfall, well, we're going to have an adjustment budget number 3, I think, for the first time ever. So I can't offer you a solution. We're doing what we were directed to do. Cabinet considered it, and all it could do was to acknowledge and flag that risk element. So I would leave it at that. I would ask perhaps Gottlieb to talk to the air quality monitoring, and then Ayub to the targets in 24G, and Karen on the green economy, and then Rosina and Mohammed on the Cape Nature. Thank you.
Good morning, honourable members. Chairperson, your question around the air quality. So we have 12 stations across the province in strategic locations where they're in monitoring the air pollution. And the replacement of the air quality and the aging infrastructure is due to, in 2008, we started the network, and our last station basically was procured in 2014 or 13, round about there. The lifespan of an air quality station is about six to 7 years. So that means we are, with most of our air quality stations, would need to be replaced. Within these stations are different analyzers for different pollutants. And so what we are replacing are the analyzers and the supporting equipment where when it comes to to the replacement. Given the budget constraints, Chair, that we would need to phase this in, and this phasing in because we have also had quite a decrease in the budget over the years, and we have now seen also the link with COVID and air quality being important, that we do need to replace before we have a total collapse of our air quality network. So we are incrementally phasing in then in terms of recapitalizing and ensuring that we got a network which is credible, Chairperson, by procuring then the necessary analyzers over time. And this time would be longer than the MTF given the budget constraints. Hope that assists. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues.
Please jump in. Please jump in. I'm not going to announce everybody.
Thank you. On the 24G, yes, that is, Chair, you are right that in terms of the economic development opportunities and the role of the department in terms of that is extremely important. If we don't give those approvals, then there will be an impact on job creation. 24G, though, is a different case because this is when there has been unlawful commencement of activities. And through the lockdown, there was also a reduction in applications received because of the lockdown regulations. So as a result of that, we also reduced we had to reduce the numbers. Otherwise, for that 6 months, there was very few applications being received. So that's the primary reason that we also reduced that numbers. So besides being the operational expenditure that has been reduced, it's also the amount of applications that have been received. And it's an explicit number. It's not the percentage. So we have to report on the number received and not like in the EIAs where you report on the number, on the percentage finalized. Thank you. Gordon, over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, both Honourable Bartman and Maseko, for the questions. The Smart Procurement Program we've been running for 3 years. We're basically assisting our municipalities to ensure that when they're committing to infrastructure, it's infrastructure that will last. Based on the climate change anticipations, etc., how they can procure more locally and build things more locally. So the movement of money there was actually correcting an error. We have a service provider who is in the last year of their contract, and the amount for the finalization of an existing contract was decreased incorrectly previously. So this was just topping up that particular budget in the program to make sure that we could honor an existing contract. The Women in Green Economy, we normally focus on micro enterprises and green entrepreneurs and give them business skills. So it's a face-to-face training engagement. We did in fact move electronic this year because we weren't quite sure of what the lockdown arrangements would be, and to try and keep everybody safe, because a number of our participants travel from the South Cape, which, as we know at the moment, is an infection hotspot. So because of moving online, we were able to relinquish the budget. We did have a very successful engagement on the 17th of November, but I will say that the participants were a slightly different mix. It was more small enterprises rather than micro enterprises. So not quite as grassroots as we would like, but we did actually have that event, and we can very happily share the outcomes with you if you would like to have more information. Thank you.
Chair, lastly, I think Cape Nature, just to quickly talk to their assumptions there.
Yeah,
thank
everyone again. At our engagement with Provincial Treasury at MTech, and associated lockdowns in our projection with regards to revenue generation and also with regards to providing work opportunities for people at our reserves, because these are obviously associated with the closing of facilities. So yes, we were advised. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much. Mr. Van Zyl, I believe that is all the feedback that you called for.
Chair, thank you. I think we've covered all bases.
Yes. Thank you very much. Then to you all for the presentation, for the information that you've provided to us. Thank you very much. So, honourable members, it's now over to you. We as a committee now need to consider this budget vote, number 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. And can I have a proposal, members, on whether we support the budget vote or reject the budget vote? Honourable Bartman, thank you for, I recognise your hands, and then Honourable Maseko as well.
Thank you, Chair. I move to support the vote.
Thank you. Honourable Maseko.
Chair, I move to second the vote, support of the vote.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, is that unanimous? Are there any other views from members? Honourable Maran, I recognise you. And Honourable Maseko, you can lower your hand perhaps. Thank you. Honourable Maran. You're still muted.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Chair, yeah, my fingers is a bit slow. Chair, yeah, at this stage, the ANC cannot support, Chair, because it's not clear that the money that will, although we are admitting that it's a decision from national not to budget for any increases, it's difficult at this stage for anyone to tell us whether the money that will be surrendered to the Provincial Revenue Fund, whether that particular money will be used for different programs within other departments. And if, for instance, as I've said earlier on, the workers won that case, we might find it difficult to find those monies again. And as the HOD have said, for the first time, then we will have to go to a third adjustment, a budget, which will be very, very difficult. Chair, for those reasons, at this stage, the ANC is saying we cannot support.
Good,
and
thank
also,
you very
Chair,
much.
that you, as in the previous meeting, for that view to be reflected as per section 90 of the standing rules within the committee report. Also, when it comes to the report, Chair, up front, I'm saying that we will not have a problem to support the committee report. Thanks.
Good. As long as your view is reflected in that report. So I trust that Ms. Nikak, our procedural officer, has taken note of these views. It seems, therefore, to me as if the majority of the members in the committee are supporting this vote. And I see there Ms. Nikak was very quick to beam it onto our screens. Honourable members, you see the report there. I'm just going to read it into the record. Report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning on Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill, B7-2020, dated 27th of November 2020, as follows. The Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, having deliberated on the subject of Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustments Appropriation Bill, B7-2020, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view that it does not support the vote. So members, now I put the report to you, as Honourable Maran quite rightly indicated, not the vote, but the report reflecting our deliberations on the vote. I see Honourable Maseko, your hand is raised. And Honourable Maran, your hand is raised in that order.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I move that we support the report as it stands.
Thank you. I've got a proposal that the report be moved and adopted. Honourable Maran, was that an old hand? Seconded. Honourable Bartman, I noticed for a while that your microphone was on as well.
That's okay. Honourable Maran, seconded already, Chair. Thank you.
And you also support the report. So then, honourable members, thank you very much for your support for this report, for Ms. Nikak for quickly preparing the report and beaming it onto our screens, and to the officials who assisted us in getting to this decision. A big thank you to one and all of you. you.
Sorry,
Ms.
Chair,
Honorable Maseko, yes, please.
sorry to interject you. My apologies. I see Peter van Zyl raising a hand.
Good. Yes, I'm going to give over for closing remarks to the HOD before we adjourn this meeting. But from my side, thank you very much to you all, and also to the officials who will have to go and, once adopted, do the best that they could with this money that hopefully will be voted for utilization. And with that, HOD, over to you.
Chair, firstly, thank you. Appreciation from the department and Cape Nature for your support. I raised my hand just to, and I don't know how it needs to be dealt with procedurally. Perhaps that's something that you as the chair and Shireen can check out. But I think the committee should also note the adjustments to the targets. I'm not sure exactly how that is dealt with procedurally. So I just wanted to flag that for you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. All that we need to consider today was the budget vote, and therefore also but for us today, as I have it, we're just considering the second adjustment budget. Ms. Nikat, can you concur with that?
I certainly do concur, Chairperson. The changes to the targets is basically for record purposes, and the committee then just takes note of that. There's not a procedure we need to follow in terms of dealing with those. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nikat. And then I also see Ms. Griesel's hand has been raised.
It's
Is
me,
that
Honourable Chair,
Minister?
sorry, I had to swap laptops. I just want to conclude by thanking the Standing Committee and thanking the department and Cape Nature for their hard work. It's very difficult times. And the COVID virus continues to wreak havoc across the world, and we need to find our way through this. Currently, we see a spike in the Western Cape, in the Garden Route, as well as in Khayelitsha, and I just want to call on all the members of the Standing Committee to work with us. I was out there yesterday, and it's scary to see how people actually just don't wear masks and don't wash their hands, sanitize, etc. And it's basic things that we will need them to follow to help us to get through and to prevent a second wave. And lastly, Honourable Chairperson, I think it's very irresponsible of National Treasury not to budget for the outcome of the court case. So that is a real threat, and we need to, and we've asked that they must rather stop the bailouts of SAA and give the money to frontline services, to our hospitals, to our schools, and to basic services and economic growth. But we've lost that debate, but it's an ongoing debate, I must state, because I think all 9 provinces feel more or less the same on that. So we will keep on fighting that fight. But yes, it's irresponsible, and it's a risk that the committee must take note of. Lastly, I want to thank the HOD, Piet van Zyl, and Dr. Rasina Omar and their teams for their hard work and keeping us on the right track. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, and thank you, I think, with those words of wisdom and those 3 requests, which we can all, I think, share with you. I want to now adjourn this meeting. Honourable members, officials, thank you very much. This meeting is now adjourned. And for those that need to join at 10 o'clock, another meeting, I wish you well for the remainder of this Black Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Morning. Morning.
Goodbye.